this group that you're not going to probably have time for stuff I show you about it that I wanted to share with you before, but it's really related directly to what you're talking about. And one of the ways it's directed is that we're giving people forbidden health information, number one. I think that's essential, because if your body feels really bad, it's very hard to focus and get in touch with yourself. It's a lot easier if you feel good physically. But beyond that, the deeper level is getting in touch with who you are, which is not just a temporary identity or a one color or the other, a body or one gender or what. There's something deeper. And it's where that intuition and everything good comes out of, I think, that would just guide you really well in almost every one of these cases. So people are bombarded by all this programming. It's not just an issue like the vaccines or the abortion or other stuff like that. It's the issue of getting enough out of touch with yourself and so motivated by fear that you're scared not to obey the authorities no matter what they tell you. Mm-hmm. And so if I would imagine that out of all your experience and with the kids and their parents and everything, you've dealt with that a lot, with people who are really scared to realize what they know is a good idea because the authorities said something else. And if there's any kind of input or story or advice that you could tell anybody that's in that situation, which nowadays almost everybody is, they've lost touch with what they know they need to do. And the authorities are saying, if you do this, your kid's going to die, you're going to die, you're going to go crazy, we're going to have to call CPS, whatever the threat is, And I want to encourage people to not be subject to that and to get back in touch with themselves. If that's a subject you can relate to at all, is just anything you would share about it if you were sitting around the living room and talking. I mean, you're probably not in the living room, but whatever room you're in.
No, I'm hiding in my bedroom. The kids
are... Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
They took over the living room.
They did.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Does it relate to that?
I spend a lot of time, my husband and I both, just going, if you're making a decision out of fear, it's probably going to be the wrong decision, because fear is the worst emotional state you can be in.
Yeah.
because when you're in fear, you're in fight or flight, right? And you're, you kind of start shunting blood away from certain areas to only go to the important area. Like if you feel fear, you're in survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you're not making pro and con lists, and you're not going, well, let me go look at that for a second, or who is it that I could talk to about this that would be a good, that's not the state that you're in. And so I feel like a lot of times when it comes to especially healthcare, they use fear a lot, and they're putting you into that kind of mindset because they just want you to do what they want you to do so that they can move on to the next person.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the decision that you make 5 minutes after they leave the room doesn't actually affect them. And it's actually none of their business, And so I'm always talking to people about that. It's always okay to say, thank you for the information. Or if they're being terrible, shut up, depending on how things are going. None of that is happening today. We are going to go talk about it. I said, even if you're a single mom and dad's not involved, use we. Unfortunately, it's 2019, and if you involve a male, it shuts them up faster. I hate that I have to say that.
Yeah. It's true.
We are going, nothing is happening today. We're going to have to talk about that, and then we will give an answer later.
Yeah.
Like, just remember, unless it's like, hey, your husband got shot with, he just got shot in a drive-by and he's bleeding out. We need to give him blood. I mean, those situations are actually incredibly rare. Almost all the time, you can ask them to leave the room if you're in the hospital. Mm-hmm. or you can remove yourself from an office or from wherever so that you can collect yourself, and I always say everybody's different. I'm the kind of person where I stay clear under pressure better than most people. If I didn't stay clear, I can get myself clear pretty quickly, whether it's minutes or max 2 hours. But for some people, it might take you 5 days.
Right.
Get over the fact that somebody was saying all these horrible things to you. And that first to go, am I clear? Am I thinking like myself, or am I still upset about what happened 2 days ago? So some people, I like to give them a checklist, and they've taken it with them to doctor's appointments, and at the top of it, all right, you never have to make a decision today. Here's a sheet for you to take notes about what they're saying.
Right.
Thank you for the information. I need to discuss this with my husband or the baby's daddy or just we, and whatever, and leave. I go, and then I have like a back, then a cleanup checklist. And I would say, am I clear is what I say at the top. Am I clear? And for I talk about, what does that mean to you to be clear? Am I clear?
It's a question you're asking yourself, basically.
Right. Am I clear? Am I clear of all the emotion that person kicked up for me? Am I clear of the fear? Am I clear of whatever? And then what is it? This is what they said. Well, let me go look to see what's true, or who's a person I can talk to about this, or where's some resources I can look it up. So, because especially when it comes to vaccines, or they're pregnant and they just have to drink that glucose drink, or you could get diet, all that kind of stuff. It's okay. And then back up, and usually once they really make sure they're clear and they get some really good resources, they're suddenly like, this is my answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I say, and then you go back in, you don't need to present data. You just need to walk back in and say, the answer is no. The answer was no. It is no, is going to continue to be no. And we are not going to be talking about that anymore.
And if they throw you out of their practice, which is more and more common, then you get to choose a different doctor, right? Okay, everybody, you're not going crazy. Well, you might be, but not because of this, that we have a different background and everything, because our connection got interrupted. And we're just about through, but I had a couple of important things to bring up to Michelle that I'm sure you'd agree it would be good to hear about. One of them is, there's all these directions for what you can do to maintain your health freedom and freedom of choice in what treatments are done to you. And we didn't cover the issue of states like California, and I'm sure others are planning to follow in their footsteps, of what to do when the government just says, oh, well, for your own benefit, we're not going to give you any more choice. And from now on, you have to have all the shots so that you'll stay healthy forever. And that's what Senator Pan has been doing in California. Now he's moving to get rid of medical exemptions, which is along the same track of intent to have every treatment decided by the government, not by you. This is also, by the way, one thing that's wrong with the so-called Green New Deal, because they want to give total discretion of all health care to the federal government, which is what's called single payer. And then they're going to define health care, and that'll be the end of it. So if for the moment you do live in California or a state like that, is there any advice, Michelle, for people like that? Because they even tried to get it mandatory for homeschooling, and they didn't quite manage it, but they're going to try. So what's your thinking about people in situations like that?
Well, I kind of joked when you messaged me about that. I said, move, ? I mean,
exactly.
California's pretty bad now.
It's hard to drive to other planets, though. I mean, the fuel runs out.
Yeah. So. We have a very large population of people from California and the DFW area that have moved here for that reason. And of course, Texas, we're in legislative session right now. We do it every 2 years, and all the new bills are coming in. And so we've always felt like if they can flip California and Texas, they'll feel like they can flip the rest of the country. Right. And I think a big problem that happens is you do have a very large homeschooling population. They're at home and they're eating the way they want to, and their kids aren't vaccinated and they're learning and all that kind of stuff. And I think a big problem is that we tend to have complacency among that group because they say, oh, well, we homeschool, it doesn't matter, and it does. Because they're just going to come after you next, which is now what they're trying to do in California. That's what we said they were going to do. Yeah. It's kind of the same way with nurses. You know, all the nurses rolled over and they all have to have their flu shots every year. And so now in Texas, as of yesterday, there was a bill filed for first responders. So first responders of any kind will have to be vaccinated, and that includes volunteers.
Yeah, and it's okay because only a few of them will die from the shots right away.
Right, and but first responders, including volunteers, is their way to broach the general population and make the general population become vaccinated. And so it really becomes an issue of, do you believe in having a right over your own body or not? And if you do, even if you do think vaccines are safe and effective, fine. But this does affect you as well because they're just going to keep branching out. And so I wish I had some magical thing to say other than get involved with legislation, but that's really the only thing you can do. I was talking to a lawyer the other day who is very concerned about the vaccine mandates and has studied and followed history very closely. He's highly intelligent, and he's afraid that that might actually be the next civil war, is the rights over your body, because if you can mandate someone to be vaccinated, what else can they make you do with your body, whether it is eat shit?
Pretty much anything, yeah.
Anything, yes. So I don't know if you have any big answer to that. I really don't.
Yeah, we're working on things in the club that are potentially game-changing things, but on the surface of what's obvious, California's made it clear that they want to go after homeschoolers, and they really, the kids are just easier because of school, but the adults are the target too, because that's a huge market. If you can mandate 200 or 300 vaccines for adults, not only is that a lot of money, but at the upper levels, they know that that'll eliminate dissent about anything, because you won't be thinking clearly anymore. And in California, as far as getting involved in legislation, people drove from all over the state where they were supposedly listening to the testimony, and the people who were running the hearing, they just ignored all the testimony. And in fact, they canceled most of it. And they said, well, there's so many of you, unfortunately, which was supposed to be the point, that you can't say what you were going to say. You may have driven 500 miles to get here. You can say for or against and your name and leave. And they actually enforce that. Mm-hmm. So the other issue is in California, there are people saying, well, this is not going to even be practical. We have to start a new state. Right. And they are proposing 85% of the landmass to be new California, in which there will be freedom and constitutional government. I don't know what's going to happen to it, because obviously there's some strong interests that would prefer that not to happen, to put it mildly. But that's what people are trying, and I guess we just have to be creative.
I am not a creative person. I cannot invent my way out of a paper bag. I have a judge personality, and so I am really good at looking at the facts and reading all the research and stringing everything together. But my place in this battle is not to invent new ways to go about things or to get around what's happening or counter them, because that's not actually how my brain works. The other, the 25% of the population that works like that is going to have to take that on. Yeah, exactly. And if anybody's interested in that, come to planetaryhealingclub.com and check out what we're doing, because we're doing extreme creative stuff. But and we hope to have Paul Preston on the show soon, who is leading the New California movement, and that could be really interesting. So yeah, get involved in legislation at a even local level, right? I mean,
the problem, the really obstacle for that is that people are being brainwashed to hate anybody that's against vaccines, that they should all be in prison or dead, which is not very good. And we got to break through to those people somehow. But, one step is just education, like the fact that you're out there talking to everybody and have the credentials that people recognize as a nurse with experience in these specialized fields mean that they're going to listen to you a lot more. And maybe even the other nurses, like the NAMV idea was, because they say, oh, this is a nurse. She might actually know something we don't, which is great. And that I want to keep this short, but it brings up the question, are you still doing the NAMV activities or not?
We are not. The president decided to pull the page down in the funding for that because we had a really hard time getting the nurses on board. We spent a lot of time dealing with, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, but I need my job. So I rolled over and we were like, we literally cannot help you if you're going to continue to do that.
Simple decision, the job wins. Right. Okay. So I don't want to forget either, before we're done, to ask you if there are any websites, blog sites, or anything else, and we'll get separately into the GoFundMe thing. But just for people to keep up with you, since the NAMV site is not there anymore, are there any others to see what you're doing, or YouTube or blogs or anything like that?
So I had a blog. I have a blog up on steamit.com that I have not been very active on since I had my baby.
Okay.
But I have a really excellent flu shot post on there that still is shared, thousands and thousands and thousands of times every season.
Is that Phoenix like the bird? PHOENIX?
No, Steemit, STEEMIT.com.
Oh, okay.
You just put Michelle Rowton, ROWTO, and Steemit. It will pop up. And I have Facebook pages that I'm actually probably going to be yanking those as of Sunday evening.
Okay.
And
so they can just find you by your name.
Right, but I may. That's why I just got correspondence, but I may have to pull it down until June 22nd.
Okay, but when people look for you on Facebook, I know you're called Michelle Rowton, but also, since you're married, Michelle Rowton James, right?
Right.
So and either one of those is you.
Yes, I have a professional page that says Michelle Rowton.
Okay.
And I have a personal page that's Michelle Rowton James, and I post a lot of stuff publicly on there. So even just following me on that page will show stuff. I do to friends only if I'm posting about my kids or my property or anything like that. But I will have those back up. They're just going to be deactivated. So, I probably was planning on deactivating those like late Sunday night or Monday morning.
Okay.
I know the show will air on Sunday.
Tell me again why you have to deactivate it.
So I can't really give any pointed details, but there is there's two people, likely three, that have been harassing myself and another holistic provider in office and a single mother for the past 2 years. Okay. One of the things that they have done is to turn me into my licensing board. And so I have, so I have an open investigation on that oddly, they have not wanted to look at any of the evidence that we've given, that this is just in the line in a string of harassment that's been revolving around this single mother for the past more than 2 years. And so it's finally coming to a head because, me, I'm not willing to just take what they're going to hand out. Right. So I did just get word that it's going to be in June before I can actually go personally present my case. And so I had chosen or have chosen to remove my stuff in case I am Googled and things like that. Which of course they can still find my radio interviews. I don't know if they're going to want to watch those, or they may not look, but it just is the more wise thing to do. And so that's why we did the GoFundMe page. I actually did it myself. so that I don't do very well on the defense. I move to offense.
Yeah.
This has taken me longer than probably anything else, but I tend to move to offense at some point when I get fed up enough. And so we're raising money for basically investigative experts. I don't even want to give the exact experts that we need because I don't want to tip anybody off.
Right.
To basically prove that it's been the same people doing all the things that have happened and sending all the things that have been sent and all of those sorts of things so that we can actually go on the offensive and have them prosecuted or at least scared into stopping, because it's a real possibility that once this case is closed, they could just turn something else in again.
And this is because you're an evil anti-vaxxer, right?
Right. Yes.
Basically.
Because I spend a lot of time healing people and reversing things and all of that kind of stuff, and I don't use traditional Western medicine all the time. Right.
Are you doing any kind of? Do you have time for any health-related business where you'll see patients or anything like that, or is that?
I'm not doing that right now. I do have a big project that I'm working on. So a break from social media would probably be good so I could get more work done. But I am going to be writing a book and working on writing some classes for webinars so that I can get as many people educated as possible.
That would be
about
great.
What I do. And then once that's done, next year I'll probably start seeing patients again.
Okay. All right. And is it easy to find the GoFundMe page? Because I think everybody should donate to that immediately.
It's GoFundMe.com/Michelle Rowton, MICHELLEROWTON.
Okay.
And even $5 will help. We actually reached a third of our goal within 48 hours, which I'm just completely.
Wow, that is encouraging. That's really encouraging.
Yes.
Did you set your goal high enough?
When we started talking about this and discussing with the lawyer what it was going to take, we originally were going to set it for 10,000, and then once I wrote the page and we recrunched all the numbers, I set it at 15.
Okay, and if you need more, you can do another one.
Right.
Okay. Sounds like there's some people that appreciate what you're doing, which is very, very encouraging. Not everybody is hypnotized.
Yes. Well, I think, my thing is we have to show the licensing boards that we are going to stand up for the people who are just trying so hard to do the right thing for our patients.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting pretty obvious, I think, that we don't sit around and wait for them to make an ethical decision. They're just strictly deciding things based on pressure.
Right.
Where it's coming from. And your defense by means of offense is really good. There's even a parallel in martial arts with Bruce Lee designing the system called Jeet Kune Do, where it's called the way of the intercepting fist. And that means you don't do blocks. They take too long and they divert your energy. Your strike is the block. And that's exactly what you're doing. So I think it's a very efficient way to do it.
I think sometimes people, and this is true with anything we're doing, or even with going after alternative providers or anti-vaxxers, is other people get it into their head that there's nothing that we can do.
Right.
And we can't stop them. And so part of me wants to prove to everybody else that there are things that we can do and that we just need to mobilize and stick together.
Yeah. Demonstrating is the whole thing. It takes it from talking to actually saying, look, we did this. Because if you can encourage people like that, there's all these other issues that are the same.
Yep.
That could be approached just like that. Just because the enemy is so big, it doesn't mean that you're paralyzed.
Right. That is true.
So there's something to be said for having integrity and sincerity and honesty on your side. The other side can't match that.
I completely agree. Yes.
Right. So what did I forget? Anything else you want people to know before we leave?
I think that's it.
Okay, that was great. Thanks for taking the time, and I hope we'll, keep up to date with what's happening. Just want to keep supporting.
Yes, I think once everything is, at least my case is finalized, and I pop back up, I would love to be back. Just to check back in.
That would be good. We'll stay in touch.
Okay.
So, thanks, Michelle.